Curious about the price of a Magic Online card? Try our searchable price guide on the right sidebar of any mtgoacademy.com page.
Time for round 1. Winning the die roll, going first. And only a single land, of course, being punished for running only 16. I'm gonna mulligan this. I did have blue and red, but yeah, I can't keep a one lander on the play. Gonna keep this hand though. Looks pretty sweet. My opponent is keeping, so we are off to the races here. These mana wars aren't really doing much for me, so I'll have to hope that my opponent has a slow start or I draw an Ophidian. That would be the perfect draw here. I'll take a Waterfront Bouncer though. Not that I have cards to discard, but now any excess lands I can decide to just discard. Yeah, Waterfront Bouncer has a tendency not to live too long, so that's down. I can't cast Mana War, it just bounces itself. So I'm forced to pass the turn here. Fires of Yavimaya. Alright, that's pretty bad when I'm sitting with the Mana Wars. It's actually one of the worst cards to see here. I'm not happy about that. Even the Prof Bolt might be a problem against the fires. Alright, Giant Mantis is okay, I guess. Only attacking for 2 here. If I draw a land, I think I should just Prof Bolt the Giant Mantis. My opponent wants to trade the fires for the Prof Bolt, for, well, 1/2 of the Prof Bolt. I think it's still a good deal for me, because I get rid of the haste portion, making my Mana Wars better. Oh, my opponent is just killing everything I have. So now the Mantis is probably coming down again. If that was my opponent's best play. Oh my god. So now my opponent has a Shroud creature. And I have all these targeting effects in my hand. If my opponent plays the Mantis now, which is what I'm hoping, then I get to Prof Bolt the Mantis. And whether or not my opponent saves it, he isn't going to be able to attack with it. Because of, well, sacrificing fires will just mean that it's not attacking. Brindle Shout, okay, can live with that. So let's Prof Bolt this. See what my opponent decides to do. Kind of have to survive the Blastoderm hits, and then I need to formulate a game plan of my own. My opponent is keeping the fires, which is probably a smart decision. Now, I could just take a Suchi here. Probably the best card to just block stuff with. Cloud Chain seems weaker. Kindle also not amazing against what my opponent has, so let's take that. I'm taking 6, but that still means I'm surviving. At least for a little bit. No, there's the Ophidian. I was just gonna say I want to bounce Brindle Shoat to chump block Blastoderm. If I play Suchi here, I'm taking another 5, going down to 2. But bouncing the Shout is not even good. It just comes back. I want to bounce the token it leaves behind. So what I could do is Goblin Commando the Shout, chump block Blastoderm, and then next turn bounce the token with Mana War. Yep, I think that's my line here. Opponent's gonna be wondering why am I upgrading his creature here. And of course I might be dead. I mean, there's a lot of haste creatures that just kill me, especially in conjunction with the fires. My opponent just has a 4, 5, or 6 drop. I think I'm dead. Desert Twister. Yep, I just killed myself by... No, I didn't really kill myself. I would have been dead to the +2/+2, so... Fires of Yavimaya, unbeatable. Also Blastoderm. without the Blaster, I think I would have been fine. But Fires is pretty much the worst card for me to face. I can't really think of a worse one. Also, my opponent with a lot of three damage spells, 3 damage effects. Yeah, this is not great for me. I could use the Wall of Diffusion. It seems better than getting everything killed in the early game. And then I'm looking at the Cougar, but I already have 2, and it just doesn't seem so amazing. I'm gonna leave the Matrons in. I think blocking Blastoderm, for example, is quite valuable. Maybe the Petrol is not at its best here in this matchup. I'm gonna take that out. And I'm gonna try to play first again. Did this register? No. This hand is great. I'm not gonna mulligan. Here I can play Caldera Lake first and then decide if I want to cycle Lonely Sandbar after I've seen one more card. It's actually quite likely that I just play it, given that I have a 5 and a 6 drop in my hand. The worst part about this, well, with this land, I think I'm fine cycling the Sandbar. The worst part about this is that I already know that my Ophidian is most likely going to get Chain Lightninged. Cycling the Sandbar also means that I'm more likely to draw into a Mana War. Alright, so far so good. No, I wouldn't even mind too much if my opponent has a Mountain and a Chain Lightning, because I get to deploy the Suchi. Okay, Fires. Off to the races here. And by races, I mean I'm racing by drawing cards. This isn't going to deal any damage. And I'm just playing a 4-mana 4/4. Let's see what my opponent has. I'm definitely far ahead on this board, despite the Fires. And I have a reasonable shot at just blocking Blastoderm, should it come down. Not this turn, of course, but the turn after. Fires is a super sweet card. There's also Surprising Burst in this format, so if you ever get that combo, you can go absolutely nuts. Kind of a weird picture, I think. Goblin Settler can kill Caldera Lake or the Mountain. Not the card that I was expecting to face here. I even have a Goblin Commando, so sadly I will miss my play this turn. I won't be doing anything because I have 3 5-drops and a 6-drop. Now, I would think that my opponent blocks the Ophidian with Goblin Settler and sacrifices Fires to kill the Ophidian. And I actually think that I want this to happen. If not, I get to draw a card. But if it does happen, the Fires is gone. And the Fires is just very scary for me. Okay, this is also a fine deal for me. Don't think there's a reason to cycle the Cougar yet. I don't have anything to do. So now I just got a chump block out of my opponent, and the Ophidian wouldn't have been a good blocker anyway. Does mean that my opponent is still alive, of course. We're in the race, overwhelmingly with haste creatures. I don't think I would have lost the game if Fires was gone from the battlefield. Yeah, because of cards like that. Can't even Prophetic Bolt that reasonably. So here I can get Badlands. So let's see. If I Goblin Commando, then my opponent just sacrifices the Fires. That doesn't seem great. If I let Suchi die by attacking it into Jungle Worm, I'm forced to Prof Bolt in addition to that. That also doesn't seem amazing. Now, Ophidian and Prof Bolt combine quite nicely, because then my opponent will also be forced to sacrifice Fires. Honestly, not sure what the best play here is. The Commando seems the weakest, and Killer Whale seems solid but unexciting. Killer Whale is just so, I don't know, so. If my opponent blocks the Ophidian, and I'm prof-bowling the Jungle Worm, I think I'm winning this game. Because I'm getting rid of my opponent's 5/5 or the fires. And by attacking with both, if the Suchi gets blocked, it's also good for me. So, yep, I'm dealing 4 here. Now my opponent has the choice. Let's resolve casually. Another Ophidian, probably not what I want. I have 6 mana, so that's fine. Could just get another 6 drop, although it's unlikely that that's actually relevant. Goblin Matron might be my best pick here, giving me ample champ blockers. Yeah, who would have thought to see that ever? My opponent has declined to sacrifice Fires of VMA both times. When I gave him the option. Aftershock. So I can't use 4 colorless lands, 4 colorless mana. Have to pass here. But I have a Cloud Gen, so my opponent on 9 should be good. Yeah, if my opponent wasn't going to use the Fire's haste ability, I think it would have been better for him to just save his 5/5. That would have already dealt 10 damage by now, giving him a reasonable shot. Elvish Aberration. So now the race is on. My opponent attacks for 4. But my Cloud Gen is threatening lethal, so I don't think I'm in great danger here. Oh, actually using this for mana. Interesting. So this doesn't really change the clock. I think my best bet here is to play another Cloud Gen. I'm super dead against Burning of Zinye, but all my cards are horrible against that. Well, Killer Whale is solid. Let's see, if I drop the Killer Whale, am I even blocking something? And it's not threatening lethal. I don't think that I have to play around a rare here. Also don't think that I'm dying, so let's see if that holds true. 2 Cloud Gens is just a lot safer than 1. I'm taking 5, 7 with the help of Fires. So haste creatures alone aren't going to kill me. I have protection from Giant Mantis as well. My opponent provoked Cloud Gen, so this is untapped and has to block if able, but it can't because it can only block flyers. All right, that worked a bit better than game 1. I don't have the Patrols anymore. I still have the 2 Cougars. I think that's a fine decision. Temporal Fissure. If my opponent doesn't have the Fires for once, then bouncing is actually going to be quite valuable, but I already have the Mana Wars for that. So let's run it back. Probably going to be on the draw, I expect. Alright, this hand is fine. I actually have the Ophidian Mana War combo. Although it's a lot weaker on the draw. My deck is a lot weaker on the draw, I have to admit. Opponent keeps 7, I'm keeping 7. Let's go. I actually have only a painful red source. But with this hand, I'm not overly concerned. Orcish Lumberjack, oh my god. Well, it's basically a Black Lotus. If my opponent just plays a forest and adds something for 4 here. Probably more scary later on. But definitely a card that I have to respect. Goblin Matron, yeah, my abundance of 3 drops isn't great here. Let's see when my opponent wants to pull the trigger. Not even casting a 6-drop with a Lumberjack. Nothing. So what's next? A 7-drop with a Lumberjack? Oh, I almost misclicked and cast Mana War. That would have been pretty bad. I want an Ophidian in play, and now if my opponent goes for something huge, I'm gonna bounce it. Actually, no matter what my opponent goes for, I'm probably bouncing it with Mana War. I'm just hoping that that a lumberjack activation is part of the plan. Oh, how unfortunate. Now, as long as there's only lumberjack, I don't have to be too concerned. And if anything, my deck can bounce quite well. All right, flow to green. This looks like it could be a lumberjack activation. No, maybe not. Yeah, it is. So 6 mana, maybe Elvish Aberration. Yep. I'm just gonna bounce that with Mana War. There's no reason to wait. And more Mana Wars means it's gonna be even better. My opponent is now going to be inclined to recast it with the Orcish Lumberjack, knowing that once it's in play, the lack of forest is not going to be a big problem. Well, it could also. All right, Goblin Settler. It's fine. Not a big problem. Not a big issue here. It's a good card. I think it's a bit underrated, or even a Cougar, and I have a Deep Analysis and a Goblin Ringleader. So the Goblin is a card that could actually attack on this board. In fact, both of my creatures could attack here. It's not like my opponent has anything. Yep, let's just deal a bit of damage then. I'm not expecting this to hit, but there might be a Matron or the Goblin Commando. Oh well, I'll take it. So this basically already paid off. Now if my opponent takes the damage, I'm happy. And if Elvish Aberration is recast, I can bounce it again. I don't really expect another Lumberjack activation. It's much more likely that my opponent just curves out here with a 4 or 5 drop. But then the Lumberjack hasn't really done any harm either. Yeah, with 5 mana, I can't really see my opponent sacrificing forests anymore. Giant Mantis, yep. Attacking back for 2. And I draw a tapped land, so cycling this is, I think, my best bet here. That way I get to bounce the Mantis again. And then I'll have the Goblin Commando next turn to still attack with everything. Oh, that's not actually true, because my opponent will most likely cast the 4/5. But still, I'm dealing damage here, I'm developing my board. I'm making sure that I'll have mana for the Goblin Commando. And even if that's not what I'm casting, it's still the best line I have. Waterfront Bouncer, so that would actually be perfect against the Elvish Aberration. I need that in play. It might be dying, but I don't think I'm holding up double red. What I am going to do is cast Goblin Matron. And by holding up double red, I mean if my opponent has the second Chain Lightning. And I get another Goblin Matron out of the deal, which I can then discard. I'm going to play the land. Well, let's see. I have 5. Deep Analysis costs 4. So I actually have all the mana in the world. I can wait one turn, see how this develops before deciding if I want to play the land. And that's because I can cast Goblin Commando, I can cast Deep Analysis and still activate Waterfront Bouncer. And it's also not super unlikely that I'll just draw into an untapped land if I cast Deep Analysis. So the first question is, does my opponent have an answer to the Bouncer? If not, then I'm feeling very, very good about this game. With 12 mana available to my opponent, I think he's just going to cast whatever he wants to cast. So it's just 3 cards against what I have here. Provoking my Waterfront Bouncer. Alright. So the Aberration is probably attacking. That's a good start for my opponent. No, it's just the Goblin Settler. So this looks like a trade. I don't think I'm blocking with anything else in this spot. And it does make sense for my opponent to hold back the Aberration for defense. And Giant Mantis returns as well. So here, as long as the aberration is around, I think I have nothing better to do than to draw some cards. Chain Lightning and Kindle, wow. So that's 3 and 2 damage. My opponent can actually pay the mana with Orcish Lumberjack as long as that's untapped, so I have to keep that in mind. Kindle is just a solid burn spell as well. I think I'm flashbacking Deep Analysis, but preparing a burn heavy turn next turn. I can't really attack here, clearly. What I can do, however, is triple or even quadruple block one of my opponent's attackers, which might be a smart choice to get rid, for example, of Elvish Aberration. Even against Giant Mantis, I'm only losing a single creature, so if my opponent doesn't play anything that changes combat math, I should be fine. Norwood Priestess, so there she is. I think I'm still better off killing Orcish Lumberjack with the Goblin Commando, just so that Chain Lightning isn't redirected somewhere else at my opponent's liking. Cloud Chain looks like a card I just have to cast here. I can drop the Cloud Chain and the Caldera Lake, and then the aggression has to wait one more turn. Yep, this Deep Analysis was phenomenal. I did draw a couple of lands as well, but just digging me 4 cards deep while being quite ahead in the damage race was very, very nice. I might just use the Chain Lightning to kill my opponent, to be honest. If the Cloud Gen deals 5, then I'm only a few damage short. Alright, this is interesting. I don't know why the Mantis is attacking, but the Aberration, I would love to just quadruple block here with everything I have. If my opponent has a removal spell for one of these guys, then I still kill the Aberration, and even if all my guys die, they weren't really doing anything on this board anyway. And I'm just scared of getting burned out or losing to a Wildfire, to a Burning of Zinnia or something like stupid like that. So I traded 2 Mana Wars for Elvish Aberration. I think that's a very good deal. Alright, this is looking great. Opponent doesn't have the Mantis on defense, so that's not blocking. I can Goblin Commando the Mantis and Kindle it while still holding a lethal Chain Lightning. That seems like my safest way of ensuring that I will have lethal next turn, which is all I'm concerned about. And now, a free green creature, thanks to Norwood Priestess. A 10-drop, thanks to Orcish Lumberjack. A Chain Lightning, I didn't leave up the mana. This goes down, but it's actually not a problem. And another Cloud Chain is a pretty good draw, I would think. So, down to 2. Let's see if this Chain Lightning resolves. Yep, it does. So, no chaining going on. My opponent doesn't get the option to do that. Of course, I could have always just cast this and still left 2 red up, so that I could have bounced it back, but there wasn't really a good point to cast Chain Lightning anyway. Alright, this worked out. Let's see if I can win round 2.